be giving him a Senior Scientist Award. So now we would like to invite Professor Elli for the presentation. Thank you so much, Professor Elli, for accepting our invitation. The floor is all yours now. So you can unmute yourself and please have.
Thank you very much.
And, nice meeting you. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you very much. And it is the morning time here in Finland. And for the beginning, I would like to say, dear guest of honor, Dr. Sergii Kholod, dear Chair Professor Dr. Inderjeet Singh Sodhi, dear Co-Chair Dr. Saurabh Chandra, and dear all the audience of this 2021 COMAGI conference. And for the beginning also, I would like to warmly thank you, Alfred Nobel University, and all the organizers for the invitation to this very interesting conference. Thank you very much. I have a presentation and I would like to share it to you, if I may. Thank you. And let's check if this is functioning, changing the slides. Yes, very finely. So my theme today is the significance of the first international conference on migration and gender issues, shortly 2021 COMAGI, for scholars and migration and gender issues. And for the beginning, I would like to show you some increase of global migration, because this is really like a phenomenon which is all the time increasing year by year. And I took some international statistics because you have here in the audience, or we have here in the audience, a lot of people around the world. And here you can see this international migration from 2019 to 2020. And in 2090, there were something like total numbers, 150 million people who were not living in their country of birth. But the curve has been increasing year by year all the time. So it means that in the globe, we have this population who are living outside of the home country. It is increasing the stock of these international migrants. And there was the really recent numbers to 2020, and nowadays it is 280 million. And we have also the shares for the males and females, and they are very much the same numbers. And the share for females, it is 48%, and for males 52% of all the stock. And this is a phenomenon which is really touching all regions, all countries, that we get more and more these international migrants. And how it is when we look at these regions, these global regions, and then we look at and compare 2000 and 2020, first these figures, that which is the share of international migrants in each region of their total population. And you can see the highest numbers are in Northern America and in Oceania, very, very high. And when we look at to 2020, the numbers have been increasing, except in Africa, it is the same share of the total population, but in absolute terms, it will be more compared to 2000. But in relative terms, and in Asia increasing, Europe, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Northern America, and Oceania. And when you look at then these numbers, when we look at what is the migrant stock share in each of these regions of the total number, 280 million. And the share for Oceania, it is very small, but in their own population, it is very high. It is 1/5. And then for Northern America, it is 1/5 of the whole world migrant stock, and over 30% for Asia and Europe, and less for Africa and Latin America and the Caribbean. So this is showing that it can be in the global terms small share of the total stock, but it is very important in the region itself. And when we look at this international migration 2020 highlights, and nearly half of all international migrants resided in the global region from which they originated, with Europe accounting for the largest share of intra-regional migration. So people are moving within the regions, those global regions. 70% of migrants born in Europe reside in another European country. So mostly they are moving within Europe, not going to other places. But of course there is this 30% of people in Europe have been moving to other bigger global regions. And nearly 2/3 of all international migrants live in high-income countries, in contrast with just 31% in middle-income countries and around 4% in low-income countries. And this is also very important to notice that low and middle-income countries hosted 80% of the world's refugees. And but in the total stock in the international migration, its share is 12%. And as I was saying earlier, that around half of those migrants are women or girls. And here is this age structure for the female migrants and for 2020. And we have to remember also that when we look at these figures that, for example, when we look at by age structure, there are different kinds of people moving around. We have families with children. This is the share of the children in the migration stream for ladies. And there are also unaccompanied refugee minors. There is a very high share of the migrants. They are young people. They are in good working age. Those are the people, for example, Finland, which is an aging society. We need this kind of people who are entering to the labor markets. Here we have labor immigrants. We have international degree students. We have, for example, marriage migrants and so on. But what was very interesting, and I had to double check this 75 plus because I didn't believe first that is it so big amount of these elderly people, because what we know in migration streams that the older you get, the less you move. But we have the stories also behind here that when we get, for example, ladies are living a little bit longer lives compared to males in general terms. And when we get older, we need care, we can't manage ourselves, then we might move to the place where we have our relatives, our daughters, sons, and so on. So we are dependent of that care. But here in these younger groups of these who are retired, they can move, for example, to warmer countries, to Spain or to Thailand or so on, when it is a so-called normal time. Now we live the COVID-19 times, people are not moving so much. And then we can continue further on. And how it went this way. The World Migration Report 2020 is showing and pointing out, which is very important. And when we look at from the long-term data, it is possible to see that this international migration is not uniform across the world, but it is really shaped by demographic, economic, geographic, and other factors resulting in distinct migration patterns. So each region, whatever region, either it is a city or a rural area or maybe in national level countries or wider regions, there are different stories behind and different reasons. And when we come now to 2021 COMAGI, this conference of migration and gender issues, it is very nice we have this kind of important conference and number one today starting. And it brings together an interdisciplinary group of scholars in the humanities and social sciences. And as we have noticed, but what I raised here in my speech, there have been addressed several important themes of migration and gender studies. This conference will deal migration issues of women and men in different countries, because these migration flows are nowadays more diverse, complex, and patterns are multi-layered. Migrants have their own personal reasons and experiences of migration and its consequences in a short term and a long run in their lives. Behind each statistical numbers, what I just showed you, there are persons, there are human beings who have decided to pack their stuff and they have moved totally to another country, not within own country, although it is an internal migration. Those are very important migration streams, but in the international level. And women's empowerment in action is one of the main themes, and it touches many fields of life as consequence of migration. Giving a view to migration and gender perspective widens our understanding and knowledge of the versatile migration phenomenon in different countries around the world. Migration can be called target migration and forced migration, as it was earlier mentioned, this forced migration. Marriage migration and labor migration, they are very well-known examples of this target migration. People are willing to advance in the career, they might change the country and go on living over there, or within the country, they move maybe from small city to a bigger city and having better labor markets situation over there and variety of the jobs. And these are included to the program of the conference. And there is also this forced labor in different countries, which is very negative consequence of migration. And women in war and conflict, struggle, resistance, and security. It is also the theme that connects to forced migration. So some part of these international migrants or in country internal migration, migrants can be a situation forced to flee from home to safe region, even to faraway country. What we have seen, for example, during the migration crisis 2015, when Finland got 10 times more asylum seekers compared to the year 2014. Another form of forced migration is this modern slavery and human trafficking in different countries, and it is very, very negative side of migration and mobility. And what we discussed in all around the world is this integration of immigrants to the host countries with different indicators. I could mention here, for example, for EU, European Union, there is such a website, European website on integration. European website on integration, shortly EWSI, and you can find it in English, German, and French. And that website purpose is to deliver, for example, good practices, what has been in different countries. It is updated every month. It was established in 2010. And for example, our institute is the country coordinator for Finland. And in each EU countries, there are those coordinators, and there you have migration news around EU countries and so on. So there is a really like, for example, in EU level, they wanted this European Commission to establish such a website that we can learn from each other and getting better this integration of immigrants. And one fundamental right is to work in the host country, and of course here is the rights of males and female immigrants in the host countries and challenges of immigration policy, because we all the time develop these policy issues and how we could better respond to these migration streams and the personal lives of the migrants that they get integrated. And also these political issues and women's quotas in political parties worldwide is discussed in this conference. Gender equality and social policy, as well as authoritarianism and gender issues, and further gender violence, health harassment and abuse are included to the themes of 2021 COMAGI. Very wide selection and very important themes during these 2 days. And it was already discussed also about this COVID-19 pandemic, because it is touching all around the world. We hear today, even today, we hear these huge numbers in different countries, and it is raising new problems. For example, getting seasonal labor in agricultural sector. I wrote about this theme, an editorial to migration letters, which is available from the website, from Migration Letters website, about the seasonal labor in agricultural sector. Because last year, it was a really big discussion how we can get these seasonal workers, because we really need them. And we know that from the native population, there is not a so high share going on to work in this sector. But we were also discussing here that we really have to look for example, our own students and so on, how they're willing to go to work over there in the farms. But we started to get people also from Ukraine and different countries, and from Thailand, these berry pickers, wild berry pickers. And what have been challenges of women and labor migration during this COVID-19 pandemic? This is very key, one key question raised and dealt in this conference. So as you can see, we are discussing very, very important themes, and we learn during these days a lot from each other. It brings really information by multi-scientific presentations of new research results for these participants around the world. And also what is the target 2021 COMAGI will establish, consolidate and sustain a network of academics who share an interest in migration and gender issues worldwide. So we get to know each other, and there was already in the beginning how there is willing to have these partners, earlier speaker, and so on. So this is the place where we can meet in this COVID-19 times in a virtual world. So I wish you and have an inspiring conference 2021 COMAGI. And I thank you very warmly for this invitation and having the chance to having this presentation. Thank you very much.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Professor Elli, for the excellent speech. Now I will request Professor